Hi everyone, my name is Taras. I work for Institute of Political Education. It's a big NGO in Ukraine, but we work more for local self-government. So for people who are interested in international relations, it's not so interesting and it's the boringest part of presentation. So if you want to sleep, you have 5 or 7 minutes to sleep, and after me you can listen to a presentation about the changes and reforms in healthcare system. And in fact, as far as I know, in USA, healthcare system is always very important. So I want to tell you a little bit about the context in Ukraine, so you understand why this reform in Ukraine about self-government and decentralization is very important. First of all, you must understand that before the Revolution of Dignity, we have very strong and powerful president and prime minister and the government. For example, now government have such spheres like international relations and military. Yeah? And now, after the Revolution of Dignity, we understand that we must build very responsible local self-government to prevent to have such strong president. So in fact we have local self-government. It's like city councils, it's like a mayor, and they have the executive departments. So first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about the about the cases, yeah, because Alexander has already told about the context, but I want to show you the exact cases and exact institution on the local level, how we try to fight with corruption. So first of all, in Ukraine, local self-government is an owner of public enterprises. So these public enterprises, they give very important services for people who live in the exact city. For example, water supply, electricity, public transport, heating supply. So in fact, in this public enterprises, there are a lot of money and they give a lot of contracts for private sector. So mayors and members of councils who are not very integrity and transparent, and they try to steal some money from local budget with the help of these public enterprises. So in Ukraine, we understand that if we give more money in local level and more power for local self-government, we must find the institution which will try to control the activity of, for example, directors. So we try to build, it's like supervisor boards. Supervisor boards, it's a collegial management institution in public enterprises that consist of one independent member, for example, the scientists, or for example, I don't know, students or leaders of student self-government. Yeah. Another part of this supervisor boards is representatives of the mayor, because in Ukraine, mayor is a very powerful member of local self-government. And also we have the representatives of the local council. But you must understand in Ukraine we have, for example, 42 or 25 members of local council. One local council. For example, the city council consists of 25 members, not 7, not 6, not 8, like in the USA. So what is the key powers of this, for example, supervisory boards in public enterprises? First is the control of activity, director of public enterprise, direction of the director of public enterprise, and selection director of public enterprise at competitive principles. Because in fact, before the Revolution of Dignity, in different branch of powers, we have the problem that some powerful politicians try to get to their team or to government their relatives. Yeah. So we have this problem, and we haven't good management. But for example, the selection of director in the competitive principle, it can solve this problem. The next thing is about the supervisory boards in public clinics and hospitals. I just take something from the healthcare reform, because in Ukraine also one part of healthcare system is municipal, is a communal part. So we understand that in this sphere, where also a lot of contracts, a big budget, we must find an institution which can help to look after the directors and executive directors of hospitals and clinics, and we build the same institution. It's like a supervisory board. It's collegial control institution too, and this institution tries to control over financial and economic activities, securing the rights of patients. For if the patient gets some services, but he thinks or her that it's bad services, they can give some information for supervisory boards, and supervisory boards can look after the exact staff in the clinic. Also monitoring compliance staff ethics. And this is an exact case from enterprises public. But also we have such rules like publishing all of drafts of council decisions. Every person in Ukraine can look in on the website what decision looks in the розглядати. Will be heard on the city council, and in fact you can give some propositions or talk with the council member, or they must vote or they don't vote. Yeah. So it's the exact rule that can help us to understand what local councils do, because in fact 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you can find information for what local councils vote. So you know it about after they vote. So you can give some proposals, for example, or to come to the member of local council and say what you think about this problem. So other thing is about the electronic declarations. In fact, all members of local councils, local self-governments, official, and the management of public enterprises submit electronic declarations. You and every person can go to the certain website and look all about their declaration, incomes and outcomes. So in fact, it's new for Ukraine because nearly 4, 5, 7 years before the Revolution of Dignity, you can't find anything about the politician, but you can see that they live in very big houses, or for example, they have very expensive cars. And now everybody, NGOs, for example, experts, journalists, they look in the certain electronic declaration and can, for example, publish journalist investigation. Yeah. And the next is about the urban planning. In Ukraine, we have very big cities, and also we have the ancient cities. But we have the problem that private sector, they in some cases try to ruin the ancient cities, yeah, and to build, for example, some houses or office centers. And in fact, now we have such rules that if a city council adopt, for example, general plan of the city, general plan is where, what, and why I built, yeah, where, what, and why. So first of all, the mayor and the members of councils, they must hold the public hearings, and everyone can give them some suggestions. Oh, So here it will be, for example, the office center or, for example, a park here. So if the council adopt this, for example, general plan or detailed plan of territory, everyone can say what they think about it. But in fact, so for understanding the context, nearly 3 or 5 years ago, you can find this plan. So if you live in the city and you buy a flat, and near to a flat you have a park, for example, 1 year and near your flat someone can, I don't know, build, for example, the office center, and you don't know about it in the right documents. So next steps in the reform of decentralization. The reform of decentralization, we think not just about how to change an institution and how to rule in country. It's about to build institutions for people who understand that they must be responsible for their lives. So local self-government is always about the responsible of the city, of the village, and, for example, of the town. So the next step is about, first, clear procedures for residents to identify priorities of budget policy. So people can influence for what cities spend their budget. For example, we build roads, or for example, hospital. The next is about clear and detailed publication online budget for each object. So we think that every citizen can take the smartphone or notebook, open it, and to find the clear information, clear for every citizen, not only for professionals or for members of councils, what is the budget exact, for example, school or exact hospital, because for me, if I go to the exact school or exact hospital, it's interesting, Not just the general, for example, that next year council gives 20 million for education. It don't tell me anything. But if I know that council gives $1 million, for example, for exact school where my children goes, I'm interested in how they spend this money. And the third step is information about the services which provided by local authorities. Because in Ukraine, if you understand, a lot of services is provided by enterprises, and the owner of these enterprises is the local self-government, city councils. So in fact, we try to build the local self-government. It's like a system where everyone who lives in the city understands what city council work for, what is the services, what is the budget. So if we understand and we believe, if everyone can get access to this information, they feel more responsible for their city. And if we have the responsible citizens in every city, we have a responsible and strong country. So this reform is not just about the institution and about the services, it's about the changing of mentality, every person in Ukraine to feel more responsible for their cities and towns. Thank you very much.